Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Leyton webinar about tax incentives for life science company. We are ready to start, so happy that many of you guys managed to join us. So let's not waste any more time and start. So as I said, this webinar is about, we are going to discuss tax incentives for life science companies. You realize that there are many of them available to US-based companies. Very quickly about myself, I'm the head of life science operations for North America. So I oversee operations in Canada and in the US. I joined Leyton over 3 years ago after having spent 25 years in R&D in multiple setups, including professorship in med school at Georgetown University in DC and McGill University in Montreal. I occupy multiple positions in startup and biotech companies worldwide, up to CSO prior joining Leyton. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So Leyton is in a consulting firm on the financial side. We are not an accounting firm. Inception took place over 26 years ago, back to France. Leyton is, as we speak, still a French company, but international stature. 26 years later, worldwide, we are looking at over 3,000 employees and over 50,000 client companies, all industry combined. We are present all over Europe and in North America. Obviously, we have 4 offices in Canada, and in the US, we have our largest office in Boston, office in San Francisco, and we just opened one in Houston. So from the get-go, we develop an expertise on everything revolving around R&D, so tax credit and non-dilutive funding. But as you may guess, since our inception, we develop other types of expertise, and that will unfold as we speak. So we'll go over innovation incentives available in the US for US-based companies. We'll go through a SALT program, which is a state and local tax recovery. We'll go through commercial real estate incentives, which actually could be interesting for life science companies that owns fairly large facility. And we'll go through our M&A services. Then we'll end up by questions and networking. So innovation funding, we'll see anything pertaining to R&D in terms of tax credit, grants, so non-dilutive funding, and also a program that is very interesting and targeting orphan drug development, which is the orphan drug tax credit. So the R&D tax credit available in the US has been developed to incentivize R&D in life, but not only in life science. It's not specific to life science, but R&D in general. And for what is of interest to us today, life science company, and it's mostly used to offset the tax liability of a company. It's a dollar for dollar incentive. So how can you use it? The R&D tax rate can be used, as I said, by a company to offset the tax liability, provided that the company is taxable. So it's a revenue stage company that has no loss, pays taxes, so that we can use this tax credit to offset the tax liability of the company. If the company is not taxable or is pre-revenue stage, which is extremely frequent in the life science industry, this tax credit can be used to offset the payroll tax. So those are the 2 options. Now, as we speak, we are facing a very interesting situation with the changes of R&D tax credit policy that occurred with the last budget passed last July. What happens is, until last July, the R&D tax rate in the US was to be amortized over 5 years. It's no longer the case. So pretty much what it means is like company was leveraging a specific fiscal year R&D tax credit, but was getting it over for 5 years. Which could be inadequate in some aspects. Now, since last July, that has changed. And any tax credit is to be recovered at the end of the same fiscal year in one single shot. So that's the first point that makes it very interesting. The second point is we can backtrack 3 previous fiscal years. So for 2025, we can backtrack 2022 and readjust previous claims that were made according to the old rules, or make claims according to new rules. And that in certain cases may lead to, and it's first time in the US, could lead to recovering cash, actually, not a tax credit. So that's a situation that is very interesting for life science company involved in R&D. And Leyton is actually on the edge these days because we are helping a lot of them with this situation. Needless to say that R&D tax credits, which by the way, for can be carried forward 20 years, so you're not obliged to use it right away, is something that we look into also because it provides a clean situation, a clean sheet for any company that would have as exit strategy M&A at site. So then we help companies basically settle the R&D tax credit situation, provide a clean sheet, and increase the business valuation. So that's a program that is very important. What qualifies? R&D is fairly straightforward most of the case. In other case, less, but that's our expertise to identify what qualifies. But in a nutshell, a company would be developing a new drug or improving a drug already existing, a new diagnostic, a new manufacturing process, or improving a process already existing. In life science, there is a process of approval, which is the 505(b)(2). So then we could also look at companies developing drug already existing on the market, but for new indication or new formulation that would belong to the 505(b)(2) pathway. Those operation qualifies for the R&D tax credit. Same for medical technology. So here there is also an interesting point, because in medical technology now we see hardware and software. And when it comes to software, more and more we see AI-based software for medical technology. So those operations, those technology being developed are eligible to, well, the expenses incurred are eligible to the R&D tax credit. For life science, obviously, we are looking at preclinical, clinical operations, and post-marketing in the field of real-world data turning to real-world evidence, because that's something that we look into it. And that is eligible to R&D tax credit. What type of expenses? So the most straightforward are the W-2 employees. Basically, the salary mass of your employees involved in R&D are eligible to the R&D tax credit. For the contractors, the 1099, so those expenses, not 100% though, but those expenses are eligible to the R&D tax credit, though. That's something that we look into it as well. For example, you are a company developing, say, a new active compound or a new formulation, and you use the services of a CRO, AI-based CRO, which are more and more common, or a CDMO. So the expenses incurred by your company on those services are eligible to the R&D tax credit. Raw material and supplies to the research consumable as well, so eligible. And cloud computing, like say you are, say, AI-based operation CRO, and that use a lot of cloud computing, those expenses will be eligible to the R&D tax credit. So now when it comes to the grant and incentives, the Leyton's approach when it comes to grants is fairly holistic. So we don't restrict our research and our scoping to one organization, one institution. We scope a broad range that we try to be as broad as possible of opportunities when it comes to non-dilutive funding. The interest of the non-dilutive funding is, for, let's say, if your company is backed by a VC, that's something that they generally welcome because that won't impact their share in the company since it's non-dilutive, and that would increase the runway of the company that they fund. So we look at federal opportunities, state and local, and private, like foundation, for example. When it comes to federal, the first name that comes to mind is NIH, and that which is the largest organization in the US when it comes to life science funding. So NIH went through few transformation the past few months, but for some aspects still operational. So interestingly, that we look at any funding related to, let's say, oncology, neurology, and any other therapeutic area. The awards range from a couple of $100,000 to multi-million dollars. The funding could be commensurate to obviously preclinical, but also clinical stage operation, multi-million dollars. There are specific programs targeting specific therapeutic needs where we can leverage multiple million dollars for clinical stage company. Other agency beyond the NIH, we are looking at ARPA-H, BARDA, DARPA, NSF, and Department of Defense. Programs that are very, very interesting, but closed as we speak so far. We hope that's going to reopen soon. Are the small business grant program provided by not only NIH, but by DoD, for example, the SBIR, which targets small business US-based, still closed as we speak. We are expecting it to reopen soon. And the same as for STTR, which is basically SBIR for a company that collaborates with universities in the US. Other programs very interesting, and I will provide a small corrections to what you see on your screen now. There are grant program provided by the FDA office to fund orphan clinical trial. So those programs go over generally 4 years, 650K per year, could be higher upon specific request. So the first link that you see is the general RFA, so the program for any orphan drug development, regardless of the therapeutic area. The second link was specific to neurodegenerative disorder, which actually has been removed, is no longer existing. My assumption here, just a guess, but it's basically they put it back into the general pool of orphan funding opportunities. So those are those programs that we target very commonly for life science industry. So the orphan, the ODTC, which the orphan drug tax credit. So basically, as I said, it helps companies funding clinical operation in the sphere of orphan drugs, provided that the company obtained the drug designation from the FDA. It works only if the drug designation has been obtained by FDA, not any other agency like EMA, which is the European one, for example. So it's a rare disease. So rare disease is less than 200,000 individuals in the US. Could be more if proof is provided that there is no treatment available or it's hard to develop one on the market. So the ODTC, in a nutshell, what it does is it allows the company to get back 25% of eligible expenses related to conducted clinical trial, and it's used to offset the tax liability of the company. So it's something that that shouldn't be overlooked for a company in this compartment of operation, because generally those companies which are not necessarily commercial stage will get an exit strategy in the foreseeable future, be acquired. If there is an acquisition, there is a revenue generated, which is taxable. So then the company could use the ODTC to offset this tax liability. So that's for the innovation. State and local tax, which is another service provided by Leyton. What is it? So basically, you are a company, you are operating across, I would say, cross state border. You're operating in state. You have a operational footprint or a state footprint in a state or multiple states. So your company is going to pay sales tax. Sales tax that from time to time the company shouldn't be paying, but still does it because doesn't know about it. So when we come into play to basically draw a map and have a clear picture of what is being paid by the company and where in the US, and recover the sales tax, and that like that shouldn't have been paid. So that's something that we do. That is also very useful in terms of service that it's a comprehensive service offered by Leyton, because not only we can backtrack multiple years of sales tax paid by the company and recover them, but it's also a way to provide a clean sheet for companies that are in the strategy of being acquired, so that everything is clear from the get-go for the due diligence for the other company that would acquire them. We also ensure that the SOLT compliance of the company, whatever territory in which they are operating. Sometimes it happens that the footprint of the company is large enough in a state so that it justifies that the company pays sales tax but doesn't do it. So there is an issue of compliance here. So that's when we look into it and we address the situation with the company. So how we can help the SOLT service. So as I said, it's Nexus studies. So we provide a comprehensive analysis of the business revenue activities on the state-by-state level. Basically, what's the company footprint in the state, and what should be the company exposure to the sales tax. And voluntary disclosure, basically, a company realized that it's not compliant. We address the situation officially, and everything is just fine. And what we call the refund reviews, reverse audits, it's where we intervene to recover sales tax for the companies. And general SOLT consulting, it's all of the above on the year long. CRA incentives, it's commercial real estate incentives. So that's going to be relevant for companies that occupies facilities that they own. And it comes in several segments. So that we are going to describe. The 45L is irrelevant. It's only for residential. We'll see the 175D, which is the energy efficiency, and the cost segregation, which is probably the most interesting here, and the property tax. Cost segregation is part of the accelerated depreciation process. So how does it work? It's like a company occupies a facility, and in the US, let's say the value of the company is going to be depreciated over 39 years. To compensate this depreciation, the company will receive 1/39th tax relief corresponding to the 1/39th of the depreciation. However, a building, a facility includes multiple components. We have plumbing, wiring, concrete, insulation, and whatnot. And all those materials doesn't necessarily follow the 39 years depreciation timeline. It could be much shorter. So we run an analysis, and we segregate all those components to shorten and accelerate the depreciation. So that, say, if we realize that the building depreciation overall is concluded after 7 years instead of 39, we will have the company leveraging the tax relief 1/7 of the overall value of the building over the course of 7 years instead of 1/39 over 39 years. So it helps the cash flow of the company. The 179D deduction, it targets commercial energy efficiency, And for most part, it's going to be huge HVAC unit. So here we are looking at companies, life science companies involved in manufacturing process, very large CROs, CMOs, CDMOs. And so if they have spent a lot of money on new HVAC system, and other eligible items. So we help them recover the tax relief, which could go up to almost $6 per square foot. So if you occupy a facility that is 100,000 square foot, you do the math, and it could be extremely lucrative and interesting for a company to embark on such program. And the last part of property tax. So basically, Leyton is going to help you renegotiate the property tax of your facility wherever you're located in the US and counties per state. So we negotiate with the town, the cities, to obtain property tax corresponding to the true value of your building. And you may understand that property tax is the last stage that comes right after cost segregation, for example. That we covered the tax deduction. As I said, it's offered for energy efficient HVAC systems. Building lighting, you change all the light bulbs, for example, for energy efficient light bulbs, and building envelope, so better insulation, so you don't have to spend more heating and you utilize less energy. And so it's permanent part of the tax code and requires energy modeling and on-site visit, but that makes sense because we want to make sure that we run a proper analysis, and the deduction can be carried forward for 20 years. Something that is very important, and those are updates that came with the last budget passed last July. The 179D program is applicable only to projects for which the construction began before July 1st, 2026. After that, it's not going to be eligible. The program is going to fade away. And allows accelerated deduction for HVAC, lighting, and envelope upgrade in commercial building only. That's the 179D. It's only for commercial. So that's pretty much the program for 179D, which is part of the overall incentives for commercial real estate. So Leyton help companies go through 179D and cost segregation and property tax, all at once. That's the cost segregation, but we already discussed it. Now, a service that we offer at Leyton it's the M&A service and fractional FPA. So M&A service comes into two streams. We offer either the sell side and the buy side. So basically, on the sell side, we on the buy side, we are going to help companies identifying opportunities upon discussion with the client and their need. We are going to leverage our network, our database, and the know-how of our experts, and we are going to help companies identify relevant candidates for acquisition. And of course, we are going to make sure, running due diligence, that you are not going to pay more than what you should, and we are going to take over the negotiation for the best terms. So that's the buy side. We do exactly also the sell side. So on the sell side, we are going to run a clean sheet first of the company to justify the best company valuation for acquisition. And that's where you understand that all the services that I previously mentioned, whether it's tax credit, it's commercial real estate, or even SALT programs, all those programs come into play when it comes to develop the strategy of the company valuation in the context of an acquisition. And that's why it's extremely important that all those programs should be run thoroughly and deeply, which we do. So we would position in the context of a buy on the sell side M&A would position your company um, the best way, the highest valuation, and we would bring the proper buyers, and we manage the entire process for you. Of course, it's completely transparent. It's completely in communication with you. There is no issue at this level, but we would secure all the most favorable terms in terms of structure and out working capital and so forth. And we take care of the whole process. We basically make sure that we take care of the whole workload of work, and so which means we save you time, money, and stress. So that's something that we do. And along those services, we provide the fractional FP advisory. Very often, what happens is um, hiring a full-time CPA or a full-time CFO is expensive. Many companies can't afford it. So we offer the services so that we can dig deep into the financial structure of the company in the context of M&A or not. Actually, we provide this type of service. So we can provide a clean sheet and in the context of due diligence and audit to make sure that in the context on the sell side, for example, M&A, we just fully justify the company valuation that we would provide to the potential acquiror. And in same for the buy side, that's something that we can provide in order to conduct an audit for the targeted company. So all those are services provided by Leyton, by our group of experts all across the US. And so that's what we do, and that's what we are in the US. Now the thing is, for US based company having operations outside of the US territory, we are in the capacity of providing exactly the same services, leveraging our offices in Canada or anywhere in Europe. So I thank you for your attention, and I guess it's time for your question, which I will gladly answer. So please don't be shy and ask any question you have in mind. Oh, okay. So very good question here. Can you please answer? I'm a CRO. Am I eligible for the R&D tax credit? I have clients in the US and outside of the US. So that's a very interesting question because I came across many CROs. CROs, generally speaking, so that would be CMOs, CDMOs, and other service provider. So in the US, any funded work provided by CRO is not eligible to the R&D tax rate. In other words, if you have a client that pays for the work provided, then you cannot claim this, let's say, the salary mass of your people involved, of your employees involved on the work as tax credit. The same way, for example, if the CRO has clients outside of the US, it still remains that the client is paying for the service provided. So as such, you cannot claim the salary mass of your employees involved in the on those R&D programs. Uh, like as an example, for in Canada, that's not the case at all. If you are in the Kenyan territory, a CRO on Kenyan territory, and you have non-Kenyan clients, then not only you get paid by the client, but you can claim the Kenyan R&D tax credit, the salary mass of your employees involved on those projects, because the client is abroad, not in Canada. It's not the case in the US. However, What I just mentioned led many CRO believing that they are not eligible to the R&D tax credit. That's a misconception. Why? Because many CRO conduct what I call in-house R&D. So in-house R&D is R&D conducted to develop their own service platform, for example. Many CROs own their own, it's a proprietary platform, patented or not, but they had to conduct R&D in order to develop it. That R&D, the expenses incurred with those on those R&D programs are eligible to the R&D tax credit, and those CRO should claim it. If you are a CRO having developed a very specific technology, say, we see that a lot, say you're a CRO, a CDMO, that have developed the capacity of producing soft gel capsules. We all know soft gel capsules. It's a very specific technology, not available everywhere. So those process, the development of the technology, the R&D, uh, conducted in order to develop this technology and the process that comes along. Because when you want to manufacture soft-shell capsules, it comes with a very specific process that the CRO has developed, not at the direct demand of the client, but to provide the service. Then, in that case, those expenses are eligible, and so forth. Your CRO developed an AI-based product, so you have a team of developers that develop the software AI-based application. So these R&D, those expenses are eligible for the CRO benefit. So that's why we always encourage CRO to talk to us. So then we would dig in deep and determine whether or not the expense is eligible. And regardless, if there is no potential for R&D, CROs generally they occupy large facilities, so then we could look into all those commercial real estate opportunities and sold program as well. The second question is, we are developing an AI-based process to better manage our workflow. Is it eligible? Yes, absolutely. I just approached the topic just with the first question. We see more and more companies developing AI-based software. So that could be for molecular modeling, molecular identification, lead development. But we see more and more development of AI-based application um, for workflow monitoring and adjustment. We see that more and more in manufacturing process, where the AI-based application is going to provide live information on the status of every single checkpoint on the manufacturing line. So if a company is developing its own AI-based software or application in such a context and uses the services of a service provider to develop such an application, the incurred expenses are absolutely eligible to the R&D tax credit. That's something that is very important to understand. And equally, and that's a question we get across the board, is the definition provided by the IRS when it comes to R&D is slightly different than the R&D the way we understand it when we are at the bench. So it's not necessarily straightforward, and a lot depends on the angle and the approach that we will adopt in order to analyze the situation. And so that's why I always encourage at least to have a discussion with us, uh, because you never know. And I always said, like, like, trust your expert, because we are here to help you. So that was an absolutely very good question. Something else, like, to complement this question, is more and more, because for logistic purpose and for workflow purpose, companies are going to adopt ERP and CRM, which are going to help manage the whole, basically every single aspect of the company's operation. And it's very common to see now companies developing modules or add-on to those CRM and ERP to customize the application to respond to their need. So although the CRM itself is commercially available and it's a purchase, a license, and so forth, so that's by no means eligible to R&D tax credit. Any development to add modules or anything not commercially available by the CRM or ERP provider, but to respond to the company needs, that's something that we should look into, and in order to legitimate and ascertain the eligibility to the R&D tax credit. Um, Third question, many questions. Okay, we occupy a large facility that we own. Does it mean that we should look into the cost seg program, cost segregation? Yes, yes, and yes, absolutely. You are a company, you occupy a large facility, you renovated, you upgraded the facility for whatever reason. Um, we should look into the commercial real estate opportunities right there. We should look into the cost segregation because that again is going to help you decrease the taxable revenue of the company. And by definition, if you are a CRO service provider, you generate revenue. However, if you are a large biotech, fairly sizable company occupying a large facility for R&D purpose, even if you are per revenue, we encourage you to look into the cost segregation program because that's something that you can carry forward 20 years. And certainly that's something that we should do. Now, that being said, and as you understand, the cost segregation program is part of the larger uh, package of commercial real estate. And therefore, even if there is no real opportunity on the cost seg side, we could still look into property tax and help you renegotiating it. So that's something that we would advise. And beyond that, another program that we discussed earlier is the state and local tax program. Salt recovery is something very important, um, commonly largely underestimated by the companies we talk to, and so which means generally it comes very often as a good surprise, because that could lead to a sizable amount of cash recovered right there. So um, again, talk to your expert, and we will be here to help you. And if there is no opportunity, that's something that we are going to let you know as well. Don't be shy. Ask questions, any question that crosses your mind. Okay, let me come up with a question on my own. My company is funded by a VC or investment banking. Um, should I talk to them and about all those programs? The answer, yes. The answer is absolutely yes. Why? Because we help companies developing, as I said, financial strategies on the basis of tax credit, CRA, commercial real estate program, salt recovery, non-dilutive funding, and whatnot. At least when we are for a company involved in R&D, we would be looking into the R&D tax credit, obviously, and the non-dilutive funding. And why that's something that you should mention to any venture capital that backs you up. It's because doing so, we are going to help you extend your runway. And we all know that the current situation when it comes to funding life science industry, although it's back to, let's say, the future, the immediate future is brighter than it used to be a few years ago, still the situation is rather difficult, and any opportunity to extend your runway should be welcome. And we discussed with VCs, US based and elsewhere, and that's an idea that they generally welcome because that increase the probability that the companies that they back up reach their next milestone without having the VC to invest more money in those companies. So basically, we help the company extend the runway, which is absolutely critical. So if you're a company backed by a VC, you should talk to them. And if you're a VC, I don't know if you are at the current webinar, then that's certainly something that we should discuss. All right. Any more questions? No? Okay. So I guess we are going to end the webinar right now. I believe that the presentation will be available to you soon after. So thank you for your time. Thank you for participating. And please certainly don't hesitate a second to revert any questions that may come up after the webinar and in the future. And don't hesitate to contact us for any questions you may have. So thank you for your time.